Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Howard, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Amiditz? Mrs. Buckley?
Here.
Dr. Campbell?
Here.
Mrs. Cook?
Here.
Mr. Means?
Here.
Mr. Rose? Here. Mrs. Rule? Here. Mr. Spacuzza?
Present.
Mr. Sestich?
Here.
We have 8 members present this evening.
Thank you, sir. Later in tonight's meeting, the board will be accepting generous donations from one of our athletic booster organizations. Recently, our soccer boosters donated almost $9,400 worth of clothing and equipment that will benefit both our boys and girls soccer teams. Specifically, the boosters have purchased a Mule Pro trainer and 90 warm-up jackets and pants for our boys and girls varsity and junior varsity teams. You may recall that earlier this year, the district accepted a $2,700 donation from the soccer boosters to help pay for lighting at the new high school athletic complex. And it is our pleasure to once again recognize them this evening for this latest round of generous donations. At this time, I would like to invite co-presidents Deanne Vakwalski, I hope I didn't butcher your name, and Wade Baker to the podium so that I can present a certificate of appreciation on behalf of the board. And I would like you to share this certificate with your membership. And also at this time, I would like the audience to give a round of applause to our soccer boosters for their generous donations.
Went to the wrong location, so he's on his way. But
Thank you so much. Guess I could have taken the glasses off. Wait, Vicki, take one without the glasses. Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you so much. I need a motion to adopt the agenda for business items.
Move the adoption. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries 8-0. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of June 25th, 2013, and the business meeting of August 6th, 2013.
So moved.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries 8-0. I need to announce executive sessions held August 6, 2013 for personnel, other legal matters, and to receive information, and August 27, 2013 for personnel, other legal matters, and to receive information. Staff report, and who's up this week? No staff report this week. And student government, oh, we are back. Not quite yet, but we're here, huh?
I wanted to introduce Harrison. He's a junior school board rep, so Harrison, he'll be joining us for the meetings for the rest of the year. And we haven't done much over the summer, but homecoming's coming up. It's September 28th, and Powder Puff and the tailgate is on September 22nd. So that's kind of, we wanted to get the community a little more involved, so if anyone has any ideas or anything. So that's all we've been really doing is planning for homecoming, which is coming up soon, and school starts next week. So we have a lot of fun stuff ahead. So.
Did you have a good summer?
Yeah, I did.
All
Thank
right,
you.
great. PTA, PTO Council, I assume is not up and running yet. And Solicitor's report.
A report has been completed and I believe was recently emailed to Mrs. Rose, but I do not have copies to hand out to the board this evening. They'll be produced and handed out to you tomorrow.
Did we have any committee reports from the board? Policy, maybe.
Well, I was going to say the only report is that we did have a policy committee meeting and we made some revisions which will be presented later in the meeting.
Great. Public comments on agenda items only. Name and address at the mic, please.
That'll work. Master Sergeant John DeLallo, 1565 Lucille Drive. I previously brought to the attention of the board that school board policies 317.1 or .2, damn it. I'm doing this from rote memory. 417.1 and 517.1, in direct violation of the Title 18 Pennsylvania Crimes Code, And I'm a bit distressed that y'all have not seen fit to address that. Thank you.
John, you're talking about the ones proposed tonight?
That was agenda items only.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see those on the agenda. Any other public comments on agenda items? Then we'll move into business items, curriculum committee, and Mrs. Buckley.
Thank you, Mrs. Cook. There are 6 items under curriculum this evening. Would anyone like any held out? Hearing none. Number 1 under curriculum is the 2013-2014 Title I and Title II. Number 2, elementary after-school tutoring program. Number 3, pre-K counts grant. 4, the PAE-TEP. 5, professional development. And number 6, an independent study. I move for approval.
Second?
Items 1 through 6 under curriculum committee have been moved by Mrs. Buckley and seconded by Mr. Spacuzza. Any questions or comments on any of these items? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those items carry 8-0. Personnel committee and Mrs. Rule.
There are 6 items on the Personnel Committee. Are there any that want to be held off? If not, I move that the following items be approved. 1, approval of substitutes. 2, approval of extra duty responsibility program. 3, acceptance of resignation. 4, appointment of personnel. 5, approval of administration tuition reimbursement.
Second?
We got one more.
And 6, change of retirement date.
Now you can second. Items 1 through 6 under personnel have been moved by Mrs. Rule and seconded by Mr. Rose. Any questions or comments on any of these items? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those items carry 8-0. Facilities and Services Committee and Mr. Sustich.
There are 2 items in facilities and services. Would anybody like those separated? Hearing none, I'd like to move the following 2 items. Number 1, acceptance of donations. I think as mentioned previously, this is the acceptance of the donation of the Mule Pro trainer and the 90 varsity and warm-up jackets from the high school soccer boosters. The Mule Pro trainer is valued at $1,693, and the jackets are valued at $7,661. Item number 2 is approval of the purchase of stair treads for the Neil Armstrong Middle School. And this is stair treads from Franklin Interiors at a total cost of $4,450.
Second.
Items 1 and 2 under Facilities and Services has been moved by Mr. Sustich and seconded by Mr. Spacuzza. Any questions or comments on either of these 2 items? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those items carry 8-0. Finance Committee and Mr. Rose.
There are 11 items under the Finance Committee tonight. Anybody want any of them held out separate?
I would like number 9 held out separately.
Which one?
Number 9.
9? Anybody else? Then I move the approval of the following items. Number 1, July and August 2013 salaries and bills. Number 2, June 2013 financial report. And number 3, July 2013 financial report. Number 4, of approval of agreement with Jordan Tax Services. Number 5, fuel contract with the Allegheny Intermediate Unit. Number 6, approval of student services contract. Number 7, approval of out-of-district special education students cross-district agreement. Number 8, approval of the purchase of classroom furniture. Number 10, items declared unused and unnecessary. And item 11, transportation bus runs. I move the approval.
Second.
Items 1 through 8 and 10 and 11 under Finance have been moved by Mr. Rose and seconded by Mrs. Buckley. Any questions or comments on any of these items? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those items carry 8-0. Mr. Rose.
I move the approval of item number 9, approval of the purchase of information technology equipment.
Second.
Item 9 under Finance has been moved by Mr. Rose and seconded by Mr. Sustich. Any questions or comments on this item?
I have some questions. Mr. Ryer, Previously, you had stated that you had been finding out the iPads weren't the most efficiency means of delivering some of these services. You had talked about the Chromebook and other things. I was wondering, why are we back to the iPads again?
I think the iPad is certainly not as cost effective as the Chromebook in terms of just delivering raw access to internet surfing or email or whatever apps are available through Google Chrome. But there is no tactile feedback available on Chromebook. There's no touchscreen. So when you're working with special needs students or autistic students, there is still no replacement for the iPad.
I agree with that. Are these designated for that type of use?
Typically, in the elementary, they find that is typically useful, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes, just a question. UPS maintenance, please. UPS maintenance high school. Can you elaborate on that, please?
When the new high school was built, part of the specification included a bus-wired UPS unit. When I say bus-wired, I mean instead of having like a battery backup plugged in, every place you have a piece of computer equipment, there's one big giant UPS. In fact, it's a 100 kilovolt UPS that sits down in the electrical room off the loading dock of the new high school. So that 100 kVA UPS is bus-wired to every network closet and the data center. And so right now, it has approximately 45 minutes runtime in the event of a power failure. Of course, we don't need 45 minutes runtime because the generator kicks on usually within 20 to 30 seconds of the power going out. But if that UPS weren't there and the data center were to go down hard, then we could be at risk of being down for several days while we rebuild servers that crashed as a result of losing power abruptly. So it's a really important piece of equipment that we never had before, and so this is a new cost.
Preventative maintenance.
Ron, what's the value of the, if we had to replace the UPS that's there because it was, it broke in any fashion and we didn't have the maintenance, how much would a new UPS cost?
That unit's in excess of $100,000.
Yeah,
The
that's
batteries,
well
just the
spent.
batteries for the unit are $14,000.
Any other questions or comments?
Just one question. I know what UPS means, but would you tell everyone in the audience what UPS means?
Uninterruptible power supply.
The
I thought
value
it
of
was a
the,
delivery service.
the value of the data being protected?
Now you sound like a commercial. Okay. All in favor say aye on item
Aye.
9. Thank you. Policy Committee and Mr. Spacuzza.
Thank you, Mrs. Cook. I see two items on the policy committee this evening. Would anyone like any of them held out separately? Hearing none, I move the following two items. Item number 1, approval of policy, third and final reading of policy number 103.1, non-discrimination. Item number 2, approval of policy revisions, third and final reading. The following policies: 113.1, discipline of students with disabilities. Policy number 218, student discipline. Policy 218.1, weapons. 218.2, terroristic threats. Policy number 222, tobacco for pupils. Policy number 227, controlled substances and paraphernalia. Policy 323, tobacco administrative employees. Policy 333, professional development of the administrative employees. Policy 351, drug and substance abuse administrative employees. Policy number 423, tobacco professional employees. Policy 433, professional development of professional employees. Policy 451, drug and substance abuse for professional employees. Policy 523, tobacco classified employees. Policy 551, drug and substance abuse, classified employees. Policy 610, purchases subject to bid in quotation. Policy number 805, emergency preparedness. Policy number 805.1, relations with law enforcement agencies. Policy 806, child and student abuse. Policy number 818, contracted services. And policy number 904, public attendance at school events. And I need a bottle of water.
Second.
Items 1 and 2 under Policy Committee have been moved by Mr. Spikuza and seconded by Mr. Rose. Any questions or comments on these two items?
I do have a comment. I believe the weapons policy 218.1 does misstate federal law, and I would hope we would come back and correct that at a later date, but I will be voting for the package as a whole.
I'm sorry, is this the one that we went over in the policy?
Yeah, and the
committee?
last correction I saw still had the language dealing with weapons off the property, which aren't necessarily in violation of law.
And that was the violation in the home, or having weapons in the homes that are closer
Weapons on private property adjacent to the school. Somebody with a concealed carry permit is allowed to possess weapons in the vicinity of the school under federal law.
I did bring that to your attention. I think we were waiting for a definitive response on it, but you said that since it was already implied in the code, that we were okay, I think. Refresh my memory on that one. Was it you or Falco?
I must have been Falco. I know that you and I spoke about that initially, and the question had to do with whether or not someone who lived within.
Right. That was the question that I had on the table. It was mostly regarding residence, in a person's residence.
It also applies to somebody with a concealed carry permit is allowed to possess a weapon adjacent to the school property, not on school property. That's specifically in the federal code.
I believe that is one of the exceptions that's delineated.
It is an exception, yes.
I believe so, yes.
Now, since we referenced the code, would that be implied, or do we have to state it in our policy?
You do not have to state every exception. If you indicate that the possession is not permitted or is otherwise permitted to the extent permitted by law, then you do not have to delineate with any specificity the exception.
And you're saying we did not change this at the policy committee meeting? I remember having a discussion surrounding
I was referred
this.
back to the solicitor, and I think my discussion with Falco was that because it is embedded
In the code.
If you're referencing and incorporating the code into the policy, you don't need to reiterate verbatim what's contained. Otherwise, your policy manual would be this big.
And
That's exactly right.
PSBA has given us this as the model, so I'm assuming that they've already embedded that as well.
So
Because it
is the
is
board
implied.
okay with the way it is stated in the,
Do you want to pull it?
or do you
and
want to
state
pull it?
that?
Yeah.
I would rather table it and correct the languages. We could say, mention the exceptions at that point and then put it in.
Mrs. Cook, I much prefer to pass it and then pull it back if we need to amend it. We should have a weapons policy in place when school starts next week.
I would agree with that, and I think we can amend it then.
You have a current weapons policy applicable to students, applicable to employees, and until such time as you amend that, they remain in place. It's not like you don't have a policy currently.
Yes, but this one, as best as we can tell, meets current federal law. Now, if it's in error, we can pull it back and amend that.
Yes.
Based on future, but the one that's in place now does not recognize current federal law. That's why it was, we came up with this one to begin with.
Okay, Mrs. Rose, we will do that then?
I'm not sure, I thought two different directives.
If we pass
it tonight,
we will look at it
Continue to
and
look
amend
at
it as
it.
necessary.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think, I would suggest that would be the way we would want to go tonight.
Because if there's any question of challenging the constitutionality of the Second Amendment, that law trumps everything, as far as I'm
Yes.
concerned.
And then we just need to reference the code as opposed to delineating something, I would say, but. Okay. Any other discussion on these items? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those items carry 8-0 with that caveat of looking into that.
Yes.
Before we get into public comments portion of our meeting this evening, I want to acknowledge the work of Independence Middle School Assistant Principal George Spaleras and the members of the district's safety committee, including Jim Modrak, Brandon Womer, Dan Elder, Art Smock, Scott Zeiler, Kathy Holleran, Mary Gallagher, Ann Ball, and Roxanne Carroll. Because of their efforts, this group has been recognized as a certified safety committee by the Pennsylvania Compensation Rating Bureau and earned the district a 5% discount on our workers' compensation policy. This saved the district over $17,100 this year, and we greatly appreciate their efforts and concern for the safety of our employees. Congratulations to everyone who serves on our safety committee. And if you read the newspapers last week, you know that on Wednesday, August 21st, the district filed a request for appointment of fact-finding with the Pennsylvania Labor Relations Board to assist us with our ongoing teacher negotiations process. For those of you who are unfamiliar with fact-finding, this is a non-binding process in which the PLRB will appoint a fact-finder, and both parties will present their proposals to the fact-finder at a hearing on a date that has yet to be scheduled. Within 40 days after hearing the fact-finder, will present his or her report and recommendations, and both parties will have 10 days to either accept or reject the report and recommendations. If one or both parties reject the fact finder's report, it is published on the PLRB website, and both sides have another 10 days to either accept or reject. Both sides must accept the report for it to become binding. This process can take up to 60 days, and during that time, both sides can continue to negotiate. We have negotiation sessions scheduled for September 4th and 11th. During fact-finding, the teachers must remain in the classroom. This is the second time fact-finding has taken place during this negotiations process. The teachers filed for fact-finding in March of 2012, with both sides rejecting the fact-finder's recommendations in May of 2012. The district filed for fact-finding last week to bring a fresh approach to the process. We have met with the union's negotiating team 21 times since May of 2012, and while progress has been made, we believe that fact-finding will provide us with the best opportunity to bring this negotiations process to an equitable conclusion for not only the teachers, but also the taxpayers of the Bethel Park School District. The board is aware of the frustration of the community that these negotiations have been ongoing since 2010, and we share that frustration as well. In negotiations past, school boards were able to raise taxes to accommodate raises and cover the costs of increased health care and pensions. But today, school boards do not have the ability to raise taxes above a set index by the state as part of its Act 1 legislation. To give you an example of how costs have risen, since the 2009-10 school year, health care costs have increased over $1 million, and retirement contributions have increased over $2 million. The district's projected contribution to the Pennsylvania School Employees Retirement System will increase from 16.93% this year to 30.93% in the 2022-23 school year. Each year, we have been budgeting monies to accommodate these future increases so the district can keep millage increases within the index established by the state. Throughout the negotiations and budgeting processes, this board has been mindful of the potential financial burden on the community when establishing a budget and setting a tax millage rate. We have received emails asking why we are not meeting more often to negotiate. That schedule depends on the schedule of the state mediator, who is working not only with us, but with other groups as well. So oftentimes we are at the mercy of his calendar. Some people have suggested that the construction of the new Bethel Park High School is the reason the district can't settle this contract. That is simply not true. In 2009, the district raised taxes, which included an increase of 0.17 mils, and that was all that was needed to fund the construction of our new high school. Great planning by our district financial administrators allowed us to build the high school with a minimal tax increase that has absolutely no impact on the negotiations process or future budgets. Not only were we able to build the new high school with the money we borrowed, we were able to use the leftover money from the high school project to upgrade the HVAC and electrical systems at Neil Armstrong Middle School, which hadn't been upgraded since the building was constructed. I commend our administration for their fiscal mindedness to bring both of these projects to fruition. It also frustrates me to hear that the board has not given the teachers anything to vote on. The board has no power or authority to bring a proposal to the teachers to vote upon. We have brought several proposals to the union's negotiating team for consideration, but it is only the negotiating team that can share a proposal with their membership. It is neither the district's nor the board's place to do that. I can assure you that this board wants to bring the negotiations process to a close as much as you want us to, but we simply can't give what we don't have. And if we did, it would only result in devastating cuts to the educational program in the future. Please be assured that we are committed to providing our teaching staff with fair wages and reasonable health care contributions while balancing dwindling financial support from the state, millage rate limitations, and increasing health care and pension costs that are beyond our control, all while maintaining a quality educational program and keeping taxes at a reasonable level for our taxpayers. And that is why we are hoping this round of fact-finding will bring some new light to the process. We want a contract settlement as much as the teachers do. There are two sides to every negotiations, and it will take both sides working together for the greater good of the Bethel Park School District and the taxpayers of Bethel Park to bring these negotiations to a mutually acceptable conclusion. At this time, any resident who wishes to address the board should come to the podium, give us your name and complete address. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Master Sergeant John DeLallo, 1565 Lucille Drive. One is a comment. I find it a bit strange, since we're a quad-A school, that we don't have an athletics committee on the school board, and I would ask that you look into that. I don't think that it's something that we should leave behind.
We did used to have an athletics committee. We just did not appoint anyone to a chairmanship of that. We had not used that for quite a while.
Very well. And I wasn't going to speak on taxes, but I must say that your remark on taxes is rather disingenuous, considering the fact that in this last levy, if you will, of taxes, there was a considerable amount of money left sitting on the table, particularly in light of House Bill 76 and its companion bill, Senate Bill 76, that people are betting won't pass. House Bill 76 is now up to 97 co-sponsors. Very likely that the 2013-2014 school year will be your base year. Further money will not come from the homeowners, but rather it will come from Harrisburg. You really dropped a considerable amount of money, particularly considering that millage would have been against the new assessments and not the old ones. So I hope you sleep soundly at night, realizing that your statement on taxation is absolutely disingenuous. Thank you.
Brenda Paysor, 3224 Arapahoe Road. I have to comment to that was my tax money that you didn't spend, and thank you. I appreciate that you didn't spend what you didn't need to spend. It continues out in the public venue and social media that the implication is out there that there are no offers to the teachers, and they have and had a raise, and I believe the last article misquoted as 4 years. Well, this is the start of the 4th year without a new contract, so to say it's been 4 years is a bit of an exaggeration. It's been 3. We know, because we've seen the fact finder's report and the arbitrator's report from the past, that there have been offers for raises to the teachers. And in my opinion, they've been very generous offers, and they were rejected. They have not been accepted. So to continue to put out in the social media and wherever else that here at the microphone is another place, that there's no offers for the teachers to receive raises is also disingenuous. That's not coming from the board, obviously. Thanks. I would, some of this could be resolved, though. We've asked for it for 3 years now. I'll say it again. Would like to see the contract negotiations made public. Thank you.
Ann DeBordley, Ashland Drive, Bethel Park. I would like to thank the soccer group. because they came to a meeting here when they were talking about lights or sod or turf on the upper fields, and they said they would be willing to contribute. And by and large, they did, and I think that's wonderful. I don't know if there are any representatives still here, but I do appreciate that they did that. And I'd also like to say that I hope we have a wonderful school year. I'm kind of anxious for it to happen, even though I have no children attending school any longer. I long to hear the music at the band. I long to see the kids going up to school. And I hope we have a wonderful school year and make it as non-controversial for the students as we possibly can, because that's why we're all here. Thank you.
Don Howard, 108 Valley View Avenue, Aliquippa, Pennsylvania. I have something for you guys. Today, all of my fellow teachers went back to school at Bethel Park.
Excuse me, this is for residents only at this moment.
I filed the paperwork, though.
We're not at that point of the meeting, sorry.
I'll sit down and wait then.
I'll call you up whenever the residents are completed with their comments. Are there any other residents who wish to make comments this evening? Seeing none, then, Mr. Howard, you may have your 2 minutes at the microphone as a non-resident.
Today, all my fellow teachers went back to school at Bethel Park to prepare for another school year. I, however, was not there. For the past 3 years, I taught 9th grade science and physics at the high school and coached both football and wrestling. I was one of the first people at the school in the morning and one of the last to leave. I worked long hours, nights, and weekends, made up all of my own material, worked on after-school committees, wrote letters of recommendation even after I resigned this summer, and numerous other things that were not in my contract. But doing all that extra stuff never bothered me. Much like all the other teachers I worked with, I did it because I love my students and my athletes. I love going the extra mile for young people and watching them grow. I love seeing the kids at Bethel Park be happy and succeed. Other than the relationships I built with my students, I come to you today with absolutely no emotional connection or previous ties to Bethel Park. I'm going to talk to you from an outsider's point of view, a bipartisan who does not totally agree with either the district or the union. The educational system in the United States today is a mess, and a proportion of this community and school board is only making that mess worse. There are many reasons for this, but one of the main reasons is simply that none of you have any idea what a teacher goes through every day. While parts of this community are focusing on the few bad apples, the good teachers are working countless hours preparing, teaching, and grading, are being not only a teacher, but a counselor, a parent, and a mentor, all at the same time to over 100 students. And we are also trying to educate a constantly distracted, unmotivated youth population, and that's just to name a few. And to do all of this for a board that doesn't show any meaningful appreciation for what you do is taxing. It sure got to me. I'll never forget the day I got hired at Bethel Park. An administrator actually said to me, and I quote, "Are you really sure you want to work here? Just some food for thought before you boast, but this is Bethel Park. You all expect the best of the best to apply for teaching positions here. Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that is not happening anymore. I know good young teachers that are working at city schools and charter schools that would rather deal with teaching in an urban environment than coming to Bethel and teaching an environment that you have all created here. Yeah, you are still going to have people apply to teach here, but the best, the ones with the options, don't want to be here. And if they already are here, they just might leave. I want you to imagine what this fall would be like if you didn't have teachers in this district doing all the extra things that they do that often go unappreciated. There would be no football or band on Friday nights. How would your boys and girls soccer teams look? Could you imagine no one to write your kids letters of recommendation to college?
Don, can you wrap up, please?
Yes. What about in the spring? No band trip, no baseball, boys volleyball, no musical, no NHS sponsor or class sponsors. There are only a few programs that have been successful. These are only a few programs that have been successful and headed by teachers. You do realize that teachers don't have to do these things, don't you? What would your district be like then without the teachers? A common argument is to tell a teacher, well, if you have it so bad, then leave. So I am. I just wish that before everyone criticized the teacher, why don't you come walk a day in our shoes? I encourage you to come see what it's like. Come deal with parents in today's society that email me to complain about putting A+ papers up on the wall because it's not fair to their child who got a B. Come try to get a student excited about learning who can't stay awake because they were up all night playing video games or on their cell phone. I challenge you all to try it. Then maybe you'll understand. You think you know, but you have no idea. I'll finish with this. Yes, money does play a major role in this labor situation. But to me and other good young teachers who won't be hitting the jump step for quite a while, it's about respect more than money. I didn't become a teacher for the money, but I also didn't become a teacher to be that looked down upon by a school board and a community that I worked so hard for. Just know that this is what the majority of your young teachers, the future of this district, are thinking, but just afraid to say. Lastly, I understand that the district doesn't have the funds, but this is going on the 4th year without a contract. It's going to be 4 years. Simply put, that's embarrassing. You're all making yourselves look tremendously bad. So tomorrow, before filling the teachers' ears with all of the same beginning of the year jargon that they've been hearing before I was even employed at Bethel Park, why don't you consider what's really happening at your district? From an outsider's point of view, I think it's time that the school board and community steps up and finds a way to get this done. It's time to put everyone's pride and egos to the side and do it for the kids. They're the ones that deserve it the most. Thank you for letting me go over time. I appreciate it.
And with that, we'll move into board comments. Dr. Campbell.
On Monday, August 5th, Bethel Park had a rather severe loss, with a sorrowful loss for the district with the passing of Judge Wida. Rob was so intimately entwined with our school district, the way he'd speak at the conference, at the graduations, the programs that he engaged with a lot of the youth, and his genuine love for youth, especially those who are troubled. In our hearts, thoughts, minds, prayers go out to his wife Shannon, Jared, and Rachel, his mother Martha. Bethel Park had a great loss, and that's sorrowful. But it seems that whenever there's been a void, whenever we've had a loss of just a truly great individual like Rob, somebody always steps up. We're always able to fill the void with a lot of talented, kind, gracious, caring people who can go ahead and carry that message forward. And I'm optimistic that that will happen with our magistrate and his relationship with Bethel Park School District. I love this district. I really do. I've shared with this board many times, and a lot of the folks who attend our school board meetings, that I have a firm love and appreciation for our teachers as well, their efforts that they exert. I explained that my mom was a school teacher. My dad was a teacher. I had 8 aunts and uncles who are teachers. I had 6 children who went through Bethel Park School District. I'm here sitting on this board. I ran because I care about the quality of education that we have. I care about what's to go forward. Everybody should be respected. Everybody should be valued at this table. Everybody has interests. The teachers have their interests. The students have their interests. The taxpayers have theirs as well. And it's striking to me that a lot of divisiveness should take place when it really doesn't have to. We don't need to bring up that kind of rancor. We need solutions. I was up at Seven Springs this past weekend at a hazmat conference, and I was working with IEDs, improvised explosive devices, actually. And we were blowing up all sorts of different things to kind of get me. My job is to try to protect the folks who are trying to protect you. And one of the things I got to arm and detonate was a half a pound of C4, which was 100 yards away. I could barely see it. But when I armed it and detonated, it slapped me in the chest like nobody's business. And it's amazing that something so small can have such a big impact that far out. Each of us, each of you here tonight, have a purpose for that. And we have that kind of influence. Like a stone, we can make ripples in the water. We can have influence. Let's bring it to the dialogue. Let's do something constructive. Let's build. Let's build. The rhetoric has its place, but it's just that rhetoric. At the end of the day, you have your own conscience to deal with. And that's all I really care to say tonight about it. But know that we do. Every member on this board that I'm aware of, and the chance that I've had to work with them in the last year and a half, I've been very impressed with their kindness, their dedication, and their work towards really improving and continuing to improve the quality of education in Bethel Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. Mr. Sussage.
Yeah, I have to agree. I too will miss Rob Wida. We've lost a true friend someday we'll be able to replace him. I'm not sure who that will be, but we have to move on, unfortunately. But I just wanted to bring up a positive. I want to agree with Ann. I'm looking forward to school starting and kids coming back and all the things that go with it, football, bands, and all that stuff, and beyond the football and the band. I hope these kids come into school, especially over at Neil Armstrong, because things are going to be new and nicer in there. We've got a few rough edges to finish yet, but we'll be ready for them. But I want to wish everybody good luck in the new school year.
Thank you. Mrs. Rule.
Yeah, I too feel the same way about Bob White. It's amazing to have someone valued and respected from people from all ages, and I think that says something about the character of Bob White. I think I would like to say to the teachers, I'm like Tim too. I have a lot of teachers. I also have administrators in my family, and I also taught though at the college level. And I think that respect has to start at home, and it has to be fostered and encouraged in school also. So the parents have to provide that discipline to the child to get them to understand and respect their the teachers. And I think the teachers have to foster that, and I think that the whole community has to foster that. It's just not one-sided. That, I think we respect. I haven't heard anyone saying anything disrespectful about the teachers. And I'm really glad to hear that you're saying that you're mentoring, you're coaching, and you're doing all the things I expect a teacher to do. When you go into that profession, you are there. You are the role model for that child. You are the encourager. You do the fostering, the nurturing. You help that child get through the school days and to help them be able to become a good, strong, individual in whatever field they choose. So I expect that of our teachers, and I'm very glad to know that you are doing that and that we really appreciate that. And also us as school board members, we sit up here too. We have been doing this because we also value the school people, all the employees in the school district. We wouldn't be sitting up here. We don't get any pay. Our pay is in the satisfaction that we're doing what we want to do, that we want to help our district be better. So I really appreciate you coming here. I'm glad that you did have your say. I'm sorry you're leaving, but again, that's your choice. But thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rhodes.
This evening, 3 of the board members and some administrators toured Neil Armstrong to see how the construction job was coming. It was pleasant to walk into an air-conditioned building. They turned it on today. It's moving well. It's a mess right now, but by the time school opens, they'll have most of it done and the hallways cleared. I just want to comment that the head custodian at Neil Armstrong was complimented over and over and over by our construction manager as being the man probably most responsible for the success of the job this summer. He was just in everybody's way, watching what they were doing, knowing what was going on, and to be sure that it was right for the building that's his. He's going to retire. We're going to miss Bill, but he was just an outstanding individual this summer to make sure that job got done the way it should get done, and that his school will be ready for students the day after Labor Day. And thanks, Bill Cahill, very, very much for all that he's done over there. And glad we're starting school again. And I think, like all board members, I have a lot of respect for teachers. We negotiate with the union, and the union and the board are having differences. That's part of the problem, but that's also the system. And so we'll keep trying to get something done as best we can. That's it.
Thank you. Mrs. Buckley.
Thank you, Mrs. Cook. I would like to thank the soccer boosters for their donations this evening. And also, I'm very excited about the pre-K counts. There's a lot of information on the website if you're not familiar with all that. We talked about it at the last meeting, but I'll just mention that again. There's a lot of positive things happening for the children in the district. And I would also like to address some of the comments made this evening at the microphone. With all due respect, sir, there are some people on the board who are very familiar with what goes on in the district because I taught in the district for 36 and a half years. So when you made the statement that none of you have any idea of what's going on, I do have to disagree with that. And I have to say that I truly, personally have a great respect for the professionals in the district. And I was happy to hear, I'll be real honest with you, I was happy to hear that you didn't take your job or accept your job because of the money. because I made a statement about the money in the district and I was chastised for it by some, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. But to be perfectly honest, and some people may call me stupid, when I accepted my job in the Bethel Park School District, I didn't know what my pay was going to be. And truthfully, I like you, I didn't care, because I took my job because of the children. And quite truthfully, we as a board sit here because we are concerned about the children in this district, and we truly do respect what goes on. And there are many hardworking professionals, and I've said that many times, and I will continue to say that. So thank you for your time. And I wish everyone a great school year. Thank you.
Mr. Spacuzza.
Thank you, Mrs. Cook. Originally, I didn't think I was going to say anything tonight, but Dr. Campbell reminded me that we lost a great friend in Rob, and I'm just very proud to say that he was a friend of mine, and I will cherish that. A tremendous person in many, many ways. It does sadden me to hear that people in the community feel that the board does not care about their teachers or the educational process. And the years that I've been on the board, 5.5+ years on the board, I've never heard one comment to that degree, not one. And I don't believe, I've had teachers at my children's graduation parties. I'm friends with a lot of teachers, and I will remain friends with them. I respect the things that they do and the work that the time they put in, the work they give to our students. But it also saddens me when I have to answer questions in public about, I hear you only attend 50% of the board meetings. Where does that come from? It certainly doesn't come from the board. And that I get preferential treatment on my reassessment? Really? Where is the rhetoric coming from? It's not coming from this board. I guarantee you that. So give us the opportunity to know what offers have been made, and then let's make a decision on a contract. I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Means.
Thank you. I too miss Rob White. He was a good friend of mine. And I was talking to my son, and my son actually knows some of the people who appeared in front of him for drug charges. And some of them were actually sentenced to jail. And even those people spoke highly of him because Rob was interested not only in punishing people, not in punishing people, but in rehabbing them. And he would use his authority to get them into rehab and straighten out lives. When I first found out Rob had died, I was saddened by the loss of a friend, but my next thought after that, who's going to take care of the drug addicts that he go in front of him? Who's going to fill that job? And he leaves a big pair of shoes to be filled that way. I'd like to address some of the things that we talked about tonight. I don't know where this idea comes from that the board disrespects people, that they don't, or teachers, that they don't value them. It seems like the myth has been propagated because we haven't opened up the pocketbook and given them the salaries they want to, that we disrespect them. And that's not true. Teachers are well paid in Bethel Park. They start out with no experience and a bachelor's degree. They start out at $45,700 a year. They move up rather slowly through the first 16 years. I agree with that. But in the 17th year, they jumped to $95,000. That's hardly poverty wages. There was an offer on the table at the last Fact Finder's report. Under the terms of that, all those salaries would have been increased by $3,000. Otherwise, if the teachers had agreed to what was offered at that point, they would be starting out at $48,700 a year right now. One of the other things that has to be considered is teaching is a very lucrative position in terms of the fringe benefits. The health care is top-notch. Teachers pay about 1% of their salary for family coverage. That's much less than anybody else does. The retirement benefits are great. I know. I'm under a similar retirement system. And what people don't realize is right now the school district is contributing 16% of whatever a teacher's salary is in towards a retirement fund, and the state's contributing money in too. If you take the average amount of money paid for teachers, if you take all the salaries and benefits that we pay out, divided by the number of teachers, a teacher in Bethel Park costs about $100,000 a year. So, I think you should be appreciative. There have been offers made on the table. If your union hasn't filled you in on those, that's not our fault. We can't control that, but we do value the teachers. Thank you very much.
Well, I wish to extend to everyone a warm welcome back to the start of a new school year. I started back today for my 30th year in education. I will regrettably be unable to attend the Bethel Park in-service tomorrow as I typically do and have done for the past 3 years because I'll be at my own in-service training. Unfortunately, according to Mr. Howard, I guess it isn't appreciated anyway if I show up, so I guess you're not going to miss me at the in-service tomorrow. I think we in the education world have a unique job in that we get to start anew each school year. Who gets to go and start their job anew every year? To me, that's never a dull moment and really gives us something to look forward to. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Move.
All in favor? And I need you guys back, executive session, please. Thank you. Good night, everyone.